Right, in this video we're going to talk about the crop tool, and it gives us some options here. So let's just start by showing you the basic crop. So I've cropped this into a square, but I'll show you how that's done. So by default we have the crop and straighten tools right here, and it keeps the image as shot. And you can see that this is locked, so when I move my crop window, that it maintains that aspect ratio. And then you can click and drag and move the image around in that square. And you can see that what's happening here too is that all of this dark gray area is getting thrown away when we finally move our image to another output. It's going to make the file smaller because we're cropping in on it. So that's how that works. We can also just simply click this here if we wanted to click and drag, and it gives us that same option. And you notice that if I click outside of the crop window that I get a rotation. So that's kind of nice if we wanted to do that. If you don't like it at all, you can always reset it. So that's how that works. We have some other options as well. If you wanted to enter in a custom option, it gives you kind of a free-form option, so we can just kind of click and drag however you want. Make sure that this is unlocked, and it will give you more choice. Otherwise, it'll lock down those ratios. You'll notice that I've got a little diagonal grid on here as well that can kind of help you look at some proportions for composition, and those you can look at are under Tools and under Crop Guide Overlay, and you have these options here. So we could do a grid if you want to do that. You've got the rule of thirds, which is kind of a classic. We have the diagonal, triangle, which I had before. And then we have a golden ratio, as well as a golden spiral. And then particular aspect ratios based on really common printing or negative sizes. So you can kind of see where those are. So those are some choices for you. If you don't want, you can always turn those off if you want. So we'll go back to the triangle, the one that I had. So those are additional options that will help you. So I'm going to try just a 1-to-1, which will create a nice square for me here. And you can see I'm just kind of moving things over a little bit. And then when I hit done, that will kind of apply the crop. And then it shows up as a square here. Other options we might have, say on this landscape one, let's do a 6:9, and you can see that that's being applied that way. There's other options for straightening. So for example, you can see when I took this picture, this angle is slightly off. That's the disadvantage of doing things handheld versus a tripod. But let's go to the straighten option. So here's the angle. You can see that you can actually dial it in using it that way, but I like to click and drag because you can find a straight area that you want. Most often it's kind of a horizon, and then from there you can kind of move it around as you see fit. And what that's going to do is actually just rotate your image to make sure that it follows that horizontal or vertical angle. It's kind of like a level is what that looks like. So that can be helpful. Here's another one that's slightly off right here. So if I do that angle again, and I like to just kind of find something that makes it straight, that should be straight. So those things kind of work. So you can see that it gives you a bunch of options. Some cases it might make your composition stronger by cropping. So that's another thing to think about when you're working. So maybe this 1-to-1, it might be kind of interesting just to focus on that. Or in this case here, maybe I crop in after the fact. And maybe I rotate it as well. I like the idea of giving this a little bit more dynamic quality, the way that that angle might work. So you can kind of see how that works. Maybe it should be a little bit tighter. So as you apply that, that can kind of work in a nice way. I wonder if that's better in black and white as well. We shall see. Looks okay. It might need some more work, but you get the idea. So that is the crop tool. Again, it's here with the aspect, so you can kind of get some of those other options. You could also enter in the custom if you wanted to actually punch in some dimensions, and then you've got the angle. So those are the basics for the crop and straighten tool.